Commander Tae-sung Kim stood before the large window of the observation deck. Below him, the planet Kepler 442c rotated slowly. It was nothing like Earth. Where Earth had blue oceans and green forests, this world was covered in gray dust and angry red storms. The surface looked dead, empty, and very dangerous. Behind him, hundreds of soldiers and scientists moved around the Indomitable, the old colony ship that would now be their home. Some packed supplies, others checked their weapons. Nobody spoke much. There was nothing happy about this day. The Galactic Coalition had made its decision final. Humanity was too wild, too unpredictable, and too dangerous for the civilized worlds. For years, humans had made mistakes in trade agreements. They had fought wars that scared other species. They had broken rules that nobody else would dare break. The Coalition said humans could not live in their space anymore. Earth would be cut off. And the best soldiers, scientists, and brave people from Earth would go far away, to a world no one wanted, a place called a Class Zero Deathworld. As Tae-sung watched the planet below, he remembered the final vote in the Coalition Council. He had been there with other human leaders trying to make them change their minds, but the alien species sitting in their comfortable chairs had just laughed. One of them, a blue creature with many eyes, had actually smiled with cruel joy. "Let them try," the alien had said. "Kepler 442c will finish what we cannot." Another species made sounds like music, but the meaning was clear. They were sending humans to die. Now, 3 weeks into their journey through space, the ship was finally in orbit. Tae-sung had given his people time to understand what was happening. Time to say goodbye to loved ones through messages. Time to feel sad, angry, or afraid. But now that time was over. They had a job to do. They had to survive. They had to prove that the Coalition was wrong. "Sir, the Council is ready," a voice said behind him. It was Lieutenant Soo-jin Han, his tactical officer. She was young but smart. Very smart. When other people saw only problems, Soo-jin could see solutions hidden inside those problems. Tae-sung turned away from the window. "Good. We will begin in the meeting room," he said. His voice was calm and strong, even though inside he felt the weight of responsibility. Everyone on this ship was depending on him. All 2,000 people, all their lives were now his responsibility. The main meeting room was filled with officers, doctors, engineers, and scientists. Dr. Ji-woo Park sat in the front row. She was their best expert on dangerous creatures and strange worlds. She had studied animals and plants her whole life. Now she would study an entire alien world. Her face looked serious and focused. "Everyone," Tae-sung began, standing at the front of the room. "I know what they told us. I know we are supposed to fail. I know they laughed when we left. But I will tell you something that the Coalition does not understand." He paused and looked at every face in the room. "Humans do not fail because the world is hard. Humans fail only when they give up." He walked slowly across the front of the room as he spoke. Our ancestors lived in caves and hunted animals with rocks and sticks. They learned to make fire. They learned to grow food. They crossed oceans in boats made of wood and cloth. They did not know if they would live or die, but they tried anyway. Every human here comes from those people. That same blood runs through your veins. That same ability to survive lives inside you. Captain Min-jun Lee, the pilot, raised his hand. He was nervous. "Commander, I have seen the data from the orbital scans. The storms on the surface have winds faster than anything we have ever seen. The temperature can drop to -50 degrees in hours. There are creatures down there that are bigger than buildings. How do we survive that?" Tae-sung smiled slightly. He had been waiting for this question. "We survive because we are smart, because we are creative, because we work together. Dr. Park will study this world and teach us its secrets. Our engineers will build shelters that can protect us from the storms. Our soldiers will defend us from the creatures. And all of us together will build a home here, not because it is easy, but because we have no choice but to succeed." Then something unexpected happened. Captain Min-jun stood up. He did not look afraid anymore. He looked ready. "I will fly the first landing shuttle," he said loudly. "And I am not afraid." One by one, other people stood up too. The scientists, the engineers, the soldiers. Soon everyone in the room was standing. Nobody said anything, but their message was clear. They would fight. They would survive. They would make the Coalition sorry for sending them away. Dr. Park approached Tae-sung after the meeting ended. She held a small computer screen showing scans of the planet. "Commander, I have found something interesting." she said quietly. "The Coalition gave us warnings about the planet's hazards, but they also left encrypted files in the ship's systems. I have started to decode them. There is something they did not tell us about this world. Something important." Taesung took the screen and looked at it. He did not understand all the technical information, but he understood the message. The Coalition knew more than they had said. They had given humans just enough information to make the situation seem hopeless, but not enough to help them actually survive. It was cruel. It was calculated. It was exactly what Taesung had expected from them. "Keep working on these files," Taesung told Dr. Park. "Every secret they kept from us might help us survive." He looked back toward the window where Kepler 442c still rotated below them. The harsh red storms covered the surface. The angry planet looked unwelcoming and cruel. But Taesung no longer saw only death and danger. He saw a challenge. He saw a chance to prove something to the entire galaxy. He saw a future. "Tomorrow the first shuttles will descend," he said to himself. "Tomorrow humanity begins its new chapter. And this planet will learn what it means to face the human spirit. They sent us here to die, but I promise you, we will make them regret that decision forever." The shuttles cut through the thick atmosphere of Kepler 442c like knives. Captain Min-jun gripped the controls tightly, feeling the ship shake as it entered the planet. The sky turned from black space to deep orange, then angry red. Thunder exploded around the shuttle, and lightning flashed in all directions. This world did not want them here. It wanted to kill them before they even touched the ground. "Shields holding," Min-jun called out. Behind him, 200 soldiers sat in the cargo area, holding tight to their seats. They wore special suits made to protect them from dangerous things. But no suit could prepare a person's mind for the horror of this landing. As the shuttle descended through the clouds, the landscape appeared below. It was worse than the scans had shown. A rocky desert stretched across the land like a scar on dead skin. Massive cracks ran through the earth. Steam rose from the ground in places where the earth must have been hot. In the distance, a volcano smoked against the red sky, and everywhere twisted rock formations jutted upward like the teeth of some giant monster. "There," Min-jun said, pointing to a valley between two tall rock formations. It was the safest landing spot they could find. Not completely safe, but safer than anywhere else. The shuttle descended fast and hard, landing with a crash that knocked some soldiers forward. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath. Then the landing light turned green. Lieutenant Soo-jin Han was the first person to walk out of the shuttle onto the surface of Kepler 442c. She stepped down carefully, her weapon ready. The ground felt solid but strange. It was not hot, which was surprising. The air tasted bad inside her suit, full of chemicals and strange smells. She activated her communication device. "The surface is stable. Coordinates locked. This will be the base camp," she reported back to the Indomitable in orbit above. Over the next few hours, 3 more shuttles landed. Soldiers and equipment poured out. Engineers began setting up tents and defensive barriers. Soo-jin directed the work with precision. Every barrier was placed exactly where it needed to be. Every gun had a clear line of fire. Every escape route was planned and marked. By evening, they had created a small fortress in the middle of the alien desert. "We have built the outer ring," one of the engineers reported to Soo-jin. "Power barriers are at 50%, enough to keep most creatures away. But if something really big comes—" He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. As night fell, the temperature dropped dramatically. It went from warm to freezing in just an hour. Snow did not fall, but the ground turned icy and hard. Inside the camp, people gathered around heaters and tried to sleep. Some of the younger soldiers were afraid, but they tried not to show it. The older soldiers knew better. They had learned long ago that fear never helped anybody survive. Around midnight, the attack came. It came from the darkness without warning. A creature, massive and horrible, crashed through their outer barriers like they were made of paper. The soldiers screamed and opened fire. Red light from their weapons lit up the night. The creature roared, a sound so loud it made everyone's bones ache. The creature was like nothing any of them had ever seen. It had 6 legs, each one thick as a tree trunk. Its body was covered in armor-like plates that the bullets bounced off. Its mouth opened to show rows of teeth the size of swords. This thing made the most dangerous animals on Earth look like kittens. They called it a deathclaw, and it had come to the camp hungry. "Fall back to the second barrier," Soo-jin screamed into her radio. Soldiers ran backward, leaving their equipment behind. The Deathclaw charged forward, destroying everything in its path. But Sujin had planned for this. The second barrier was stronger than the first. It was also connected to high-voltage electrical systems that she had made sure would work perfectly. When the creature touched the electrical barrier, something amazing happened. Electricity shot through its entire body. The creature shrieked in pain and jumped backward, shaking and smoking. For a moment, everyone thought maybe they had a chance. Maybe they could actually stop this thing. But the Deathclaw was smarter than they hoped. It retreated, circled around, and attacked from a different side where the barriers were weaker. Through a gap in the defenses, the creature found soldiers. When it was done with them, 17 people were gone. Killed so fast they did not have time to scream. The survivors stood in silence, watching blood fall onto the frozen ground. The creature pulled back into the darkness. It was not fully defeated, but it had been hurt enough. It would hunt elsewhere. But it would be back. Everyone in the camp knew it would be back. Taesung descended from the Indomitable at dawn. He walked through the camp looking at the damage. He saw the broken barriers. He saw the blood on the ice. He saw the faces of soldiers who had lost friends in the night. And then he called everyone together. Every person in the camp came to hear what their commander would say. "Today, this world showed us what it can do," Taesung said. His voice was calm and steady. "It killed 17 of our brothers and sisters. It destroyed our barriers. It showed us that we are not safe here. But I will tell you this. We are still alive. We are still standing. And tomorrow we will be stronger than today. Every day we will learn this world's secrets. Every day we will find ways to fight back. They sent us here to die. But I will not let them win. I will not let them be right about us. We will survive this. We will prevail. We will take this world and make it ours, or we will die trying." The soldiers stood tall. The fear did not go away, but something else grew inside them, something stronger. It was determination. It was the human spirit refusing to break. And in that moment, on the frozen surface of a world that wanted them dead, they made a choice. They would not give up. They would not go home in failure. They would make the coalition regret ever laughing at them. 6 months had passed since the humans first landed on Kepler 442c. The base camp had transformed from a small fortress into something much more impressive. New buildings had been constructed. Equipment that had seemed impossible to build had been assembled and tested. Water collection systems pulled moisture from the poisoned air. Food-growing chambers produced crops that could survive the strange soil. Piece by piece, the humans were bending this hostile world to their will. In the laboratory tent, Dr. Jiwoo Park studied a crystal that glowed softly in her hand. It was a mineral found deep in the rock, and it did something completely unexpected. When it came near living things, it reacted. The crystal would pulse with light and energy. Park had discovered this by accident when a crystal fell near a sleeping soldier. It had started to glow. "It is like a biological sensor," she explained to Taesung during their daily report meeting. "The crystal responds to the electrical signals that all living creatures make. If we can understand this, we can use it to detect the Deathclaws before they attack. We might even use it to protect ourselves." Taesung leaned forward with interest. "Can you amplify the effect? Make it stronger?" "Maybe," Park said carefully. "But it would require experiments and tests on living subjects." "Then do it," Taesung said. "This world is teaching us its secrets. We must learn as much as we can before winter comes." In another part of the camp, a young researcher named Haiwan worked with smaller creatures. They were not like the deadly Deathclaws. These animals were smaller, almost like giant lizards the size of horses. They were fast and smart, but not immediately dangerous. Haiwan had discovered something remarkable about them. They could be trained. Using food and patience, Haiwan had managed to get 5 of the creatures to come to her call. She had named them, given them areas of the camp where they were safe. Slowly, they were beginning to trust humans. 2 of them would even allow people to ride on their backs. It seemed impossible, but Haiwan believed that these creatures could become allies. They could help humans explore the world. They could carry supplies. They could even fight alongside soldiers. Meanwhile, the engineers were working on something different. The planet's atmosphere was toxic. but it was not completely empty. It had chemicals that could be extracted and used. Using complex chemical processes, they had created machines that could remove the poisons from the air. These machines produced breathable air. Not a lot yet, but enough that people could spend longer outside their protective suits. Captain Min Jun tested the new equipment. He climbed into a special suit connected to an air processing device and stepped outside the camp. For the first time, he breathed the outside air without his full protective mask. It smelled wrong and tasted strange, but it was breathable. "It works," he reported. "We could establish outposts. We could explore further from the base." Su Jin organized the first real exploration mission beyond the immediate camp. A team of soldiers, led by Min Jun, traveled 3 kilometers across the frozen desert. Using the new air processing equipment, they could move without heavy suits slowing them down. They documented everything they saw. They found more mineral deposits. They found evidence of more creatures, and they found something that made them stop completely. It was a structure. A building made from metal so old it was half covered in rust and dust. It was not made by humans. It was not made by anything that lived on Kepler 442c. The explorers looked at each other with shock and amazement. They had found proof of a dead civilization. Something intelligent had lived here before the humans came. Something advanced had built things, created technology, and then disappeared or died. Taesung received the report with intense interest. "Take a team and excavate the site," he ordered. "But be careful. If there is old technology down there, it might be dangerous. We do not know what we are dealing with." As the months passed, the humans learned more and more. Dr. Park's crystals were successfully used to create alarm systems that warned when predators were near. Haewon trained more of the lizard-like creatures until there were enough to provide transportation and help with work. The engineers expanded the air processing system to cover a larger area. The explorers found more ancient structures, slowly uncovering the mystery of the dead civilization. But most importantly, the humans were learning how to survive. They were not just surviving in the way animals survive. They were solving problems. They were thinking ahead. They were using intelligence and creativity to turn an impossible situation into a possible one. One evening, a priority message came from the Indomitable. Taesung read it in the command tent, his face growing more serious with each word. The message was from Earth. The coalition had sent a probe to check on the humans. They were watching. And according to the probe's data, something was happening that the aliens did not expect. The humans were not failing. They were succeeding. In a coalition meeting room far away in space, an alien official was reviewing the probe data with alarm. "This is impossible," the alien said. "The humans should be dead by now, or at least dying. But they are building settlements. They are adapting to the environment. They are learning to control the creatures. This was supposed to be their grave, not their home." Another official made a sound of worry. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "we have made a terrible mistake." By the second year, Kepler 442c had become a different world. Or rather, it was the same world, but humans had changed it forever. Where there had been empty desert, now there were 3 major settlements. Where creatures had ruled unchallenged, now humans hunted alongside tamed beasts. Where the sky had been empty of purpose, now ships flew regularly between the settlements, carrying goods and people. The largest city was called New Seoul. It rose from a sheltered valley like a fortress from an ancient legend. High walls surrounded the city, made from materials the humans had learned to process from local rocks. Inside, buildings of various sizes clustered together. Towers reached toward the red sky. Gardens grew food in carefully controlled environments. And at the center stood the command tower, where Taesung ruled his growing empire. Su Jin walked through the markets of New Seoul, watching people go about their lives. The population had grown to over 50,000. There were soldiers, yes, but also farmers, teachers, doctors, and children. Children who had been born here, who had never seen Earth, who knew Kepler 442c as their true home. These children were different from Earth humans. They were stronger. They were tougher. They had grown up in a harsh world, and it had changed them. "The old structures are yielding secrets," Dr. Park reported to Taesung in the command tower. Her team had been excavating the ancient ruins for months now. We have found technology. Advanced technology. They have energy sources we do not fully understand yet. They have weapon systems that still function. They have computers with data storage that seems impossible. Can you understand it? Taesung asked. Slowly, Park replied. The design is very different from human technology. But we are learning. And when we fully understand this, our power will increase dramatically. The Coalition will not send us as exiles anymore. They will come asking for our friendship. The military had become a true fighting force. Taesung had organized the soldiers into divisions with specialized training. Some worked with the tamed creatures as mounted cavalry. Others operated weapon systems built from old Coalition technology that humans had salvaged from the Indomitable. The defenses of New Seoul were impressive enough to stop any known threat. But Taesung wanted more than just defense. He wanted power. The creatures of Kepler 442c were being studied for genetic modification. Scientists worked to combine the best traits of these dangerous animals with human needs. Stronger creatures, faster creatures, smarter creatures. Everything humans might need. The results were disturbing to look at, but undeniably effective. Within a few years, humans would have an army of genetically enhanced beasts. One morning, a shuttle landed in New Seoul, bringing unexpected visitors. But these were not humans from Earth or the Indomitable. They were people from one of the other settlements. They brought urgent news. While exploring in the northern regions, they had found something massive. Massive structures. Massive machines. An entire underground complex that had not been fully explored before. Taesung assembled an expedition immediately. He took Soo-jin, Dr. Park, and a military escort into the northern wilderness. After days of travel by mounted creatures and advanced vehicles, they reached the site. What they found was breathtaking. It was a city. An entire city built inside mountains, made of metal and stone, built by a civilization that had reached incredible heights of technology and engineering. This is impossible, Park whispered. The scale of this construction is enormous. They must have had thousands of workers. Thousands of years of development. They descended deeper into the ancient city. In a central chamber, they found what seemed to be the heart of the complex. A machine. An impossible machine. It was the size of a building, constructed from materials they did not recognize, and in its center a crystal glowed. The same crystal that Park had been studying, but much, much larger. It is still active, Park said with amazement. After thousands of years, it is still working. Imagine the power source. Imagine the technology required to create something like this. Taesung stood before the machine, understanding its importance. If humans could activate it, if they could understand it, they would possess power that could reshape the galaxy. The Coalition's technological advantage would become irrelevant. Humans would not just survive. Humans would become masters. We must learn this machine, Taesung commanded. Assign researchers. Assign engineers. Assign soldiers to guard them. This is our opportunity. As months passed, progress was made. The ancient machine's purpose became clear. It was a generator, an energy generator that drew power from the planet's core itself. And it did something else. It created a protective field. A shield that could surround and protect anything beneath it. The civilization that built this city had created a defense system that was nearly indestructible. Then came the message from orbit. The Coalition had sent an official transmission. It came with an urgent update in the star charts. Kepler 442c's official classification was being changed. The message announced, Kepler 442c is hereby reclassified from Class 0 Deathworld to Class 3 Frontier Colony. This world is now designated as a human colony of significant interest. Further Coalition interference is not recommended. In the command tower, Taesung read the official classification. He almost laughed. The Coalition was admitting defeat. They had expected humans to fail. Instead, humans had conquered an unconquerable world. And they were just beginning. The real power was still coming. Soon the Coalition would not just respect humans. Soon they would fear them. The message was broadcast across all known space. Every star system that could receive signals heard the words. And when the words were heard, the galaxy understood that something fundamental had changed. Commander Taesung Kim of Earth stood before the communication array in New Seoul, his face calm and powerful, and he spoke. To the Galactic Coalition and all species who listen, he said. His voice was steady and full of meaning. You sent us to die. You laughed as our ships left your space. You made jokes about our death. You believed that this world would destroy us completely, but you were wrong. You have always been wrong about humanity. We did not fail on Kepler 442c. We have not struggled in survival. Instead, we have transformed this planet into our home. Our city, New Sol, now has over 100,000 citizens. Our second and third cities grow by the day. Our technology advances constantly. Our people are stronger than they have ever been. And we have discovered something that you tried to hide from us. We have found the ancient ruins of a dead civilization. We have learned their secrets. And we will soon possess their power. The classification of Kepler 442c has been officially changed. It is no longer a Class 0 Deathworld. It is now a Class 3 civilization world, with potential to reach Class 2 within a generation. This is our home now. Not because you allowed it, not because you wanted it, but because we made it ours through courage, intelligence, and the human spirit. When Taesung finished speaking, a silence fell across known space. The Coalition had sent humans away expecting them to die, and now those humans were announcing themselves as powerful, as capable, as a force that could not be ignored anymore. Dr. Jiwoo Park stood in the ancient city, watching the main power generator come to life. She had spent months learning the technology, studying the patterns, understanding the systems, and now piece by piece the ancient machine was activating. The crystal at its center began to glow brighter, brighter and brighter still, until its light could be seen from the surface above. The energy field it generated was invisible, but its power was undeniable. Sensors showed that an area 50 kilometers across was now protected by an impenetrable shield. Weather could not penetrate it. Radiation could not penetrate it. Even the most powerful weapons from known species could not penetrate it. New Sol was now covered by this shield. The humans were truly protected now. Captain Min Jun piloted the newest human spacecraft, a ship designed by human engineers using technology from the ancient ruins combined with human creativity. The ship was fast. The ship was strong. The ship was built specifically to take a delegation to the Coalition homeworld. For the first time in years, humans and Coalition leaders would meet not as exile and jailer, but as equals. Lieutenant Sujin supervised the military of Kepler 442c. The soldiers under her command were trained. They were equipped with the most advanced weapons available. They had modified death claws as war mounts. They had defenses that could withstand any conventional attack. When Coalition diplomats arrived, they would see humans who were no longer weak exiles. They would see humans who were warriors. In the schools of New Sol, children learned both human history and the history of Kepler 442c. They learned stories of the ancestors who had survived the first nights when the death claws attacked. They learned about the courage of the first explorers who ventured into unknown lands. They learned that they were part of something special. They were the first generation born on a world that humans had conquered. They were the future, and the future was bright. The Coalition delegation arrived in a small transport ship, approaching Kepler 442c with caution. As they descended through the atmosphere, they saw the cities below. They saw the farms and factories. They saw the organized settlements spreading across the landscape. They could not believe what they were seeing. How had humans done so much in just 2 years? Taesung welcomed them to New Sol. He showed them the city. He showed them the advanced systems. He showed them the protective shield. He showed them the ancient ruins and the technology humans were learning to control, and then he invited them to negotiate. "We have resources you will want," Taesung told the Coalition leaders. "We have ancient technology. We have the potential for trade. We have the ability to support allies in your space, and we have the power to stop any threats you might face. But we will not do these things because you demand it. We will do them because we choose to. Because we are equals now." The Coalition leaders looked at each other. They had made a terrible mistake. They had intended to remove a problem from their space. Instead, they had created a new power in the galaxy. They had taken humanity and thrown it into the most hostile environment possible. And humanity had not just survived. Humanity had thrived. Humanity had grown stronger. "We propose a trade agreement," one of the Coalition leaders said carefully, "and perhaps a formal alliance." Taesung smiled. It was a smile of triumph and satisfaction. "Interesting," he said. "We will discuss this, but first let me show you something else." He led them to the observation deck where they could see the stars. Kepler 442c is just the beginning, he said. We have learned how to conquer an impossible world. Now we will learn how to reach for the stars. The galaxy will soon know that humanity is not a problem to be exiled. Humanity is a power to be respected and feared. As the sun set over New Seoul, casting red light across the buildings and streets, people gathered in the central square. They celebrated. They danced. They sang songs about the people who had died making all this possible. They celebrated the sacrifice of those 17 soldiers who had fallen on the first night. They celebrated the courage of the explorers. They celebrated themselves and their future. Kepler 442c was no longer a death world. It was a human world. The planet that had been meant to be humanity's grave had become humanity's throne. And across the galaxy, in governments and militaries and schools, beings of many species were beginning to understand a simple truth. They had made a mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would spend the rest of history dealing with the consequences of that mistake. Because humanity, given a challenge, did not fail. Humanity evolved. Humanity adapted. Humanity conquered, and nothing would ever stop them now.